Hey, welcome everybody. We are here again, waiting just moments away from a Donald Trump and coronavirus task force press briefing. Donald Trump announcing this morning that he has a big announcement from the FDA. We don't know what it will be, but we do actually have some pretty important news about one of the clinical trials that I've been looking at. And so we're going to be looking at that momentarily. We are live on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. I've been trying to carry all of these press briefings live. Basically for two reasons. Number one, we need people to follow the guidelines, and anything I can do to amplify what the guidelines are, which are stay out of bars and restaurants, stay home, don't send kids to school, all of this stuff we're trying to do. Number two, we also want to stay on top of the latest developments. And any opportunity to do that is, of course, very, very much welcome. I will take your comments and questions up until they get started. You can send them if you're watching on YouTube via Super Chat. You can send them on Twitch with Twitch subscription messages. For example, Filthy Film just did so and says, hashtag Free Shell Free Shelly Miscavige Scientology. There you go. Okay. That's a message. That's a message, and we welcome all messages. We also do have the coupon code running at joinpacman.com 2020 now with a goal of 25 members. Here is some, and I've got the audio up here, so as soon as they start, we are going to hear it. We've been following a bunch of different clinical trials. We've been looking at clinical trials of remdesivir, Avigan. They're starting antibody treatments. There's a lot of different things going on. This is actual good news. Okay, this is serious. Fujifilm, back years ago, developed a drug called Avigan, whose other name is favipiravir. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. This is one of the clinical trials that's been going on. There has been a successful clinical trial, and it seems to work very well. Okay, this is real stuff. Medical authorities in China have said a drug used in Japan to treat new strains of influenza appeared to be effective in coronavirus patients, according to Japanese media. Zhang Jinmin, an official at China's Science and Tech Ministry, said favipiravir, developed by a subsidiary of Fujifilm, had produced encouraging outcomes in clinical trials in Wuhan and Shenzhen involving 340 patients. This is not now 20 people they gave it to, and it's sort of throw something at the wall and see what sticks. This is serious. There has been a concern about side effects. Zhang says it has a high degree of safety and is clearly effective in treatment. Patients who were given the medicine in Shenzhen were turned negative for the virus after a median of 4 days after becoming positive, compared with a median of 11 days for those not treated. In addition, and this is important, X-rays confirmed improvements in lung condition in 91% of patients treated with favipiravir compared to 62% of those without the drug. That's about 50% more effective. Again, this drug is also known as Avigan, and it was developed in 2014. For whatever reason, Fujifilm is not currently commenting on the claims. Shares surged because this is capitalist coronavirus, as we know. Drugs and doctors in Japan are using the same drugs in clinical studies on coronavirus patients with mild to moderate symptoms, hoping it will prevent the virus from multiplying in patients. Very, very important. This next paragraph, okay? A Japanese health ministry source suggested the drug was not as effective in people with more severe symptoms. That's important to know. This is not going to be we cure everybody regardless of risk. If you're older, if you have a more severe case, it's not clear that this works well at all. The point is, shorten the amount of time that mild cases are contagious. That is very important. We've given Avigan to 70 to 80 people. It doesn't seem to work that well when the virus has already multiplied. The same limitations had been identified in studies involving coronavirus patients using a combination of HIV antiretrovirals, lopinavir and ritonavir. We have also been covering those. A health official told the Mainichi the drug could be approved as early as May, but if the results of clinical research are delayed, approval could be delayed. This is serious, and this is very, very good news. And we are going to be tracking that very closely. And of course, May at this point is we're 6 weeks from May, right? So this is very, very important stuff. We're waiting for Donald Trump. Let me say thanks to Aaron McCrae, who is new member number 1 today at joinpacman.com. Thanks, Aaron. Really appreciate your support and appreciate the support of everybody who has been watching the streams. This is important stuff. That's why we're covering it. We have some super chats coming in. Hamiltonian says, prediction for today, they still won't take the necessary steps to slow this down. Trump only cares about the stock market. Speaking of the stock market, it's, sorry about that. Let me get back here. The stock market crashing once again, as many of you probably know. We are down again, 1,300 points. You know what's absolutely insane? Seeing down 6.27% doesn't even feel that bad when the other day we were down 12, 13%. That it's absolutely crazy that that's the new reality. But alas, that's where we are. We are about 2 minutes from the start of today's briefing. I'm Mikey says, disgusting. He's now branding it China virus. Yeah, I have a long commentary about that on today's broadcast show, which I just filmed. So you'll see that video a little later. Trey Mason says, think we'll get power plants closing because of no workers. I think that supermarkets and other, utilities and the like, I think they're probably going to be staying open, even if it puts workers at risk. Michael 23 says, why is Trump doing $1 trillion bailout on us? Isn't that evil socialism? Yeah, I said yesterday, stuff that we're always told we can't afford. Now we're told we can't afford not to, which is a very, very drastic change. Things have changed very, very quickly. Welcome to everybody who's joining me on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. We are about 2 minutes from 1 minute from the scheduled White House coronavirus briefing. Donald Trump tweeting earlier that he has a big announcement from the FDA. But again, very big news out of Japan and China. Tests of Avigan have gone well. A clinical trial of 340 has gone very well on mild to moderate cases. And we're going to continue following that for sure as we continue to learn more about it. If you're joining us on YouTube, please do me the favor of hitting the like button and the subscribe button. Thanks to people who do that, the streams have been getting more and more viewers, which is important. We want to get these guidelines out to as many people as possible. And you can also, if you are watching on YouTube, send me a super chat, which will show up right there where Dr. Funny just showed up. Let me know where you are and what measures you are taking at this point. Dr. Funny says, MD here in the Midwest, we still have not taken this seriously enough. No supplies, no ability to test except in patients that are already sick. This is going to be very bad unless you are a celebrity or an athlete, in which case you can get tested pretty damn quickly. That's what we found out over the last few days. But average people, unless you are quite sick, you are going to have a very difficult time getting a test. And that's part of why these numbers are as low as they are. When you look at the U.S., which now has 7,400 official cases, this number could be 100,000. It could be 500,000. We don't know. The level of asymptomatic young people in South Korea, when they widely tested, suggests a ton of people have no symptoms and are carrying this. And we don't have tests. We're only testing serious cases. I know someone who was told that her test results could take as long as 2 weeks to come back. 2 weeks. Can you imagine? So we've got a real problem. And the bottom line is we can't wait for testing to pull out all the stops. That's the unfortunate reality. Kowalski from Nebraska says, sold my calves February 14th. Price has fallen 25%. Yeah, I think Kowalski, you're what, like a cattle rancher out in Nebraska or something like that? Let me say thank you to Astonbine, who has subscribed with Twitch Prime. I appreciate that. Consider grabbing a Twitch subscription if you are watching on Twitch. And remember that we do have this coupon code 2020 now, which is a 66% discount. Things have gotten brutal, right? That's why we're at 66% off. 66% discount off of a membership at joinpacman.com. We have one new member so far. That's a sad number. That's a sad number, but I trust that it may go a little higher as we wait for the Donald Trump coronavirus task force. Donald Trump claiming that he has a big announcement from the FDA. We will see. Kai Spooky says 5.7 magnitude earthquake in Salt Lake City, Utah this morning. I didn't hear about that. Tagar Ian says, I work in a guitar store. People touch everything. I also run our lesson department. So far, not shutting down. Dumb, dumb, dumb. That's got to get shut down immediately. Every dentist I know in Boston is shutting down. Dentists dental office is extremely at risk. Dr. Funny says the number of positives is likely a factor of 10 raised to the 4 or 5 compared to current positives. Yes, it's extremely high. Extremely high. And we just don't know the real number. Jonathan says, David, what are your thoughts on the impact of the virus on the upcoming election? Could Trump use the crisis as a way to stay in office if he loses? I don't want to do that right now because I'm actually going to have a full video about that on Friday. And the answer is basically no. So I'll have a full commentary Friday. I want to make sure it's properly researched as well. Okay. Michael says, I work at Disney World and a guest told me their work is going to quarantine them because they went to Disney, which is now closed, but only the hotels. Interesting. Dr. Funny has grabbed a YouTube subscription at the soy boy level. Thanks very much. Just a reminder, the tracker here is website memberships at joinpacman.com. What do you guys think Trump's big FDA announcement is going to be? As the stock market continues to implode, let's look at Trump's tweet earlier today. A number of tweets mentioning coronavirus, Chinese virus. Trump tweeting about his approval rating. But let's see his tweet. Here it is. I will be having a news conference today to discuss very important news from the FDA concerning the Chinese virus. And we just don't know what that news is at this point in time, but we will hopefully learn very, very soon. Let me say thank you to Brandon Thompson. Brandon has just grabbed a membership at joinpacman.com. Thank you, Brandon. I really appreciate that support. And you can join Brandon at joinpacman.com. Daniel Ocean says, I sell personal protective equipment, been sold out for weeks. No ETA on new stock. Importers say their shipments were sent back to China, where most of it is made. Incredible. Junie McGraw says, I'm a bartender in Chicago, and all the restaurants are closed, which is good for not spreading the virus, bad for those that pay rent. Yes. Semi-truck driver says, I'm a truck driver. Not surprising. And it's been weird to say the least. The trucking industry is one of the least respectable industries, and we will be needed ASAP. Yeah, listen, health workers, supermarket workers, people working in shipping, logistics, post office. I went to the post office yesterday, had to pick up some stuff, and everybody's there. Everybody's just there and working. And truck drivers as well, continuing to keep the supply chains moving. Christopher Simpson has also grabbed a YouTube membership at the soy boy level. Very much appreciate that. And let me say thank you as well to Philip Paradisus. Philip Paradisus is new member number 3 at joinpacman.com. Geo Shepherd is new member number 4 at joinpacman.com. Thank you very much. Appreciate that support. And remember, we're doing these streams regardless. If you are watching on YouTube, a really little thing you can do is make sure to hit like and subscribe. When you do that, YouTube realizes this is a great stream to recommend to people searching for the coronavirus press conference, and then more people come in. Currently at 3,200 and climbing very quickly. Also, by the way, welcome to our folks watching on Facebook Live. We have been doing every one of these conferences on Facebook Live. And what was often just 50 or 100 people watching on Facebook has regularly become anywhere between 400 and 800. And we're going to continue on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube, making it all happen. John Sebastian Pinero says, just finished hearing Trudeau's address to Canadians. Curious how Trump's address will be. I wouldn't be surprised if he calls it the Chinese virus. I think Trump's hesitating to call it the Chinese virus during press conferences, although he did defend calling it that yesterday when a reporter asked him about it. but he's not been calling it that, at least proactively during the press conferences. Joni Lee says U.S. Navy family here operating at 100%. No social distancing. Instructor at work is 8.5 months. I assume you mean 8.5 months pregnant. Still working every day in a class of 300. No cleaning supplies at Nex or barbershop per employees. Horrible. We're not going to solve it. We're just not going to solve it if that's the case. We do have the Dow Jones Industrial Average down another 6%. It's becoming the new normal, Let me say thanks to Jennifer Hay. Hey, Jennifer Hay. That's funny, actually. I didn't even mean to do that. New member number 5. I feel like an idiot now, but that was not on. I was not deliberately making a dad joke. New member number 5, Jennifer, thank you. David Parks is new member number 6 at joinpacman.com. And Brian Graham is new member number 7 at joinpacman.com. Appreciate that. P. Penna is a new member on YouTube. Edward Lianca says, I'm from Italy. Entire country is on lockdown. Sad, but it has to happen. Ajamu Omowale has become a soy boy on YouTube. Pine Soul says, is this our opportunity for mail-in or email voting for presidential election? It is, and it is unlikely to happen, sadly. Jeff Humboldt says the Chinese virus and the Slovenian first lady. Yes, we should refer to her that way for as long as Trump calls it the Chinese virus. It's funny because really it's not funny, it's tragic, but the epicenter at this point is really Europe more than China. China's got it under control. It's Europe acting slowly that spread it further. And very soon, if the U.S. doesn't get it together, it's going to be the U.S. responsible for further spread and contagion as we stand by for the coronavirus task force conference. Ollie P says, when socialism, not socialism? When Republicans suggest it. Very well said. Iyazasai Azor says, I'm a teacher in Japan and got a $5,000 paid vacation. Yes, that is not what is happening in the United States. That is not what is happening in the United States by any stretch of the imagination. And, we're looking at, can we get some people $1,000 or something like that? But that is not, we are in very, very different places for sure. Someone tweeted me yesterday. Actually, let me see if I can find this on my Twitter page. By the way, I tweeted this earlier. On April 3rd, we get March unemployment numbers. If you think the stock market's been erratic this month, just wait until we find out unemployment is up drastically. But I tweeted yesterday, testing and treatment idea. Someone tweeted, fly to Korea. The test is free. You get results in 6 hours. If the case is confirmed, you get free healthcare. Round trip tickets are ultra cheap right now. I'm not kidding. It's insane that is not insane to do, right? That it's completely crazy. That is not, it's a wild thing to do, but it's not completely nuts. Very, very surreal situation in which we find ourselves today. For people asking, is the $1,000 emergency fund happening? We don't know. Griff has grabbed a Twitch Prime subscription. Thanks, Griff. I appreciate that. Appreciate your support very much. Let me say thank you to Peter Dickinson. Peter Dickinson has grabbed a membership at joinpacman.com and is new member number 8 today. Thanks, Peter. And Julian Dominguez is new member number 9 at joinpacman.com. Thanks, Julian. Very much appreciate your support. Arola says, don't believe for a minute that China has it under control. They lied about SARS. We have no reason to believe they aren't hiding numbers. That was my initial view, but WHO investigators are there. Investigators, not the right word. Authorities, officials, and they say China does have it under control. So I was skeptical of China's numbers early, and we were right to be. But China does seem, according to WHO, to be clearing about 1,000 cases a day. This is a typical day for China. 13 new cases and around 1,000 people who recover, which has reduced the number of active cases in China to 1, 2, 3, 4, now just 5th And on a cases per population, not that this means anything because, again, these numbers are so off, but China has fallen very, very far down. The most active cases currently that we know of, right? I mean, in Italy, Italy is testing much more than we are. So who knows? Again, probably 100,000 cases here in the U.S., 500,000 cases. We just don't know. We just don't know. And we are waiting for the press conference to begin. Super chats continue to come in. Let's see here. Make it simple says, here comes $1,000. That may well be. JHWH Gadol says, I think the strong social democracies in Europe will weather the crisis better than the U.S. in the long run. Good healthcare systems are the key. Yeah, you know, one of the things that I've been cautious about saying too much of this, just keeping an eye on the press conference, because there are reasons this might take European countries, and everybody's been saying this is just because it's early there. Eventually, the death rates will go up. But it doesn't seem to be happening. So if we look at Germany, 27 deaths over 10/1/20, it's a 0.2% death rate. Now, I know this is not the right way to calculate it. These are just very rough figures. You've got to look at it on resolved cases. Only 73 people have recovered. I get it, but the numbers aren't climbing, okay? You look at France is not doing quite so well, 175 over 5530. They have a 3% death rate. But Switzerland, 27 over 3070, they're at 0.8%. UK, they're at 2.7%. Netherlands is at 2.8%. Austria, however, it remains very, very low. So there are a number of countries, including Norway, Belgium, Sweden, Denmark. Almost nobody is dying. I hope it doesn't change. I understand that if they had late surges of new cases, the deaths may simply be delayed because it's tragically about 17 days on average for the deaths from the time that they are diagnosed or show symptoms, better said, until we have an outcome, as it has been callously called. But those numbers continue to be held very, very low. And I think that that is important to look at. And remember, guys, that there is likely many multiples of these numbers of cases in a lot of places. And the death rates, in a good way, the death rates may be far lower than what we currently believe. At the same time, that means the contagion is exponentially high. Let me say thank you to Kai Christian Muller, who is new member number 10 today at joinpacman.com. Junior Moreno is new member number 11 today at joinpacman.com. If you're just joining us, we're waiting for a coronavirus briefing that was scheduled to start 15 minutes ago. We don't know what's going on. We're keeping an eye on the stock markets, the Dow continuing to crater, down another 0.5 percentage point or so since the last time we looked at it. Scheduled for 11:30, and we are indeed standing by. If you're just joining on YouTube, please remember to hit like and subscribe. It's been heartwarming to see the folks that have been coming into these press briefings. Clearly, people care about this. When you hit like and subscribe, it really helps us in the YouTube algorithm. It's free. It costs nothing. And I say the same thing on Twitch. Make sure to follow us. And if you're catching this stream on Facebook and you haven't liked our Facebook page, you can do it there. You can do it there as well. Okay. Austin Jones says, should I invest heavily in the stock market to get in on these bailouts and low stock prices? I can't give you financial advice because everybody's financial situation is different. I am continuing to buy because I believe that eventually there will be a recovery. And at my age, I should be young enough to get the benefit of that. So as the stock market continues to crater, I buy twice a month and I'm continuing to accumulate. Of course, I'm reinvesting dividends. My idea is if I get out of this thing alive, if that's the case, then I will hopefully accumulate more shares that eventually will recover. That's my view, because what else can I do, right? I can't control it. I don't pretend to be able to time the market. So I just keep buying and wait, and we'll see what happens. Aaron Washington says, I thought maybe coronavirus might wake people up to how bad Trump is and how badly we need a competent leader like Sanders. I fear I was wrong. Is there any hope? I see none. The only hope is that Biden defeats Trump because Bernie's out. Bernie lost 3 more primaries last night, announced that he is going to be reassessing his campaign. That's political speak for I'm out. It's just a matter of when and how does he do it? How does he do it in a way that feels good to everybody involved, as good as it could possibly feel? Jason, pronounced Jason, has grabbed a beta level subscription on YouTube. Glenn Swindler says, is it true that some European countries are letting young people roam to infect each other to build up immunity? Is that a bad idea? Should we? I don't know that. I am not going to comment about anything I don't know about. I've not heard commentary on that from medical experts, so I don't know. Jeremy Comfort says, will Trump be impeached when the virus subsides? I don't believe so. ABBC Now Taekwondo says, does washing the sinuses using Neti Wash help? Don't know. Not a doctor. Only listen to doctors on this. Okay. Charlie says many people are saying Trump is going to speak very strongly today. That's what I read. And we don't know why he hasn't yet. The stock market just kind of hanging around, down about 6.5%. And we continue to wait for Donald Trump. Arjun Sicking says, I work for a private security company in the Netherlands. I'm worried about the contradictions between the WHO and the Dutch Health Organization. Big props to everyone working hard these days. Yeah, listen, what about the contradiction between no congregating in more than 10 people and millions of people voting in primaries? I just don't know. Let me say thank you and welcome to Keith Hall, who is new member number 12 today at joinpacman.com. Keith, thank you. Yes. Also, thanks to Roberto O'Neill. I don't know if you go by Beto, like Beto O'Rourke. Roberto O'Neill is new member number 13 today at joinpacman.com. And I very much appreciate your support. Folks just joining us, this was scheduled to start 15 minutes ago. We don't know what's going on. We're just waiting. I don't think we got any updates from Donald Trump here about the press conference. This was 3 minutes ago. That's interesting. 3 minutes ago, Trump is supposed to be speaking right now, and he's tweeting. If it is indeed him, who knows? Who knows? Maybe Trump forgot about the press conference, like some people are suggesting. ABBC Now Taekwondo says the virus dies at 133 degrees Fahrenheit. Could inhaled steam help? I don't know about that. I'm not contributing to any possible disinformation on that. Also, by the way, if you are just joining us, we do have actually big news today. The drug Avigan has been tested anecdotally, and we now have a 340-person clinical trial. It appears as though Avigan, also known as favipiravir, I don't know how that's said. It does appear to be very effective against mild and moderate cases so far, leading to visible lung improvements on x-rays in 90% of mild and moderate cases, shortening the disease. This is very good news. This is science and data that we've been waiting for, and that's good news, and we'll be covering that more tomorrow. And we'll be covering all of these developments as we have been. Daniel Cerny has grabbed a YouTube subscription. So has Richard Bodner. Welcome to 2 very special soy boys. Billiam says, I mean, everything was laid out against Sanders. I don't mean to sound sour, but come on. Jason Aldridge says, $5 in recognition of your reliable coverage, great content, and additional insight. Thank you. Thank you for the support. I appreciate that. JHWH says, I'm from Austria. We had the earliest and strongest lockdown measures. We know it'll hit us, but we want to prevent elderly and already sick people from dying. Tom Owain says, UK response has been slow. NHS is struggling. Yes. Marika says, millennials are despairing over their parents thinking they're invincible. They only go to local shops, but they don't accept help. 0 deaths, though. Iazazai Azor says Cenk Uygur invented a vaccine, but he's hiding it. Now, that can't be true. That can't be true. Baron Steuben says, worried about my relatives in Brazil. Bolsonaro rivals Trump's incompetence. Yeah, he does. Katie B says New York college student anxious about no timeline, upset Republicans decided to downplay the virus. Many people don't view it as serious because of them. That's one of the biggest tragedies. There is not only a virus spreading, there is viral disinformation spreading as well. And it seems to be afflicting way more Republicans than Democrats. Let me say thank you and welcome to Hector Suarez Gomes, who is new member number 14 today at joinpacman.com. We are standing by for the Donald Trump press conference, and it's very weird that it still has not started. We don't know what's going on. A little tiny recovery for the Dow picking up as we do indeed wait. Jack Maxwell says, if you have symptoms, don't touch ibuprofen. We're seeing some reports on that, and that is something that doctors are looking at closely. Terrell Bradshaw says, takes a pandemic to get the White House daily press briefings again. Apparently. Adams W216, Trump's handling of outbreak could help him in November. I actually agree with you. This is not, I don't believe Trump has handled it well, but I agree that the handling of it could actually end up helping Trump in November. If you're just joining us on Facebook, welcome. We are standing by for the coronavirus task force. We do now have the ability for people to get Facebook direct memberships to the show. Cool new feature that we are participating in. If you're joining us on YouTube, please remember to like this stream and to hit the subscribe button. Both are free and so very much appreciated. If you're watching on Twitch, remember to follow, and you can also grab a Twitch Prime subscription. Filipovitz has cheered 1 bit. Thank you for that bit, Filipovitz. I appreciate that. Julian Dominguez says, maybe they are trying to get the right mix of drugs or Trump is too up or down. Yeah, you never know whether it'll be upper or downer Trump at these press conferences. This one now 24 minutes past when it was supposed to start, with the Dow continuing to just recover a tiny bit, but still down more than a brutal 1,200 points. Trump tweeted just a few minutes ago, 8 minutes ago, he was supposed to be in a briefing. So it's weird. We don't know what's going on, but we are standing by. Sir Sonics has grabbed an alpha level YouTube subscription. Aquatic Llama says, I tried to get a beta membership, won't let me get it. Stuck in quarantine waiting for test results from yesterday. Kowalski from Nebraska says, ethanol uses half of U.S. corn oil is too low to run. No idea what you mean. Justin Haddock says, you think a UBI for the quarantine could happen? Yeah, it does look like it very well could. Paul Rogers says, destiny was destroyed in this debate. Eric the K says, Trump must hate you. Keep up the good work. We have no idea where Trump is. It's very, very strange. Danilil Fino has subscribed at joinpacman.com and is new member number 15. Look at that bar, folks. We're filling up that blue bar very strongly. And I'm keeping a very strong look at it myself with those memberships that are coming in. Latest official numbers at this point are 208,000 coronavirus cases. Notice that in the last 10 minutes, it went up by 2,000 cases. This is now going, it's going crazy at this point in time. We basically have just a direct vertical rise in the number of cases growing on a daily basis. Let's look at the actual numbers. Yesterday, of course, we had more new cases than on any previous day. Same applied to the prior 2 days. This February 12th thing was because of a lot of clinically confirmed cases, and that threw the numbers off. But as far as with uniform numbers, then it's going in the very, very much wrong direction. And it doesn't look like we're going to be peaking anytime soon. Growth factor, as you can see, cases excluding mainland China rising dramatically. Again, biggest growth number was yesterday. If we had another 2,000 cases in the last 10 minutes, I would expect today to surpass this by even more. And the growth factor outside of mainland China Active cases, of course, there are now 107,000 known active cases. These numbers are almost meaningless because so many people are infected and they simply don't know. So those are the numbers we have. Stock market continuing to recover just a little bit. We don't know why in advance of Donald Trump's press conference. Let me just take a look at the latest news ticker just to see if there's any particular explanation for why this is happening. We did see the earthquake hitting Utah, knocking power out to thousands. Last thing we need right now. We are expecting the White House any moment. According to NPR, any moment this is supposed to start. We do not know why it hasn't, but we are now a half hour late on this press briefing. Let me say thank you to Raveney Hockey, who has subscribed for 3 months with Twitch Prime. Thank you very much. Okay. My No Skips says, sister said first vaccine person is a crisis actor. Oh, give me a break. That's weaponized ignorance. Carpe Donnelly says, stop calling a stipend UBI. It is co-opting the name. Yeah, it's not really UBI. It seems like these are sort of emergency payouts. No one important says, what's your favorite song to play on drums? I don't know. I don't have any one song. Lots of Jello says, can the federal government or state local governments implement forced quarantines? If so, do you think this could happen within the next week or so? We're dealing with that on Friday on the show, so I don't want to preempt it. That's a real legal question, and I want to make sure I don't spread any mis or disinformation. So I'm going to wait to comment on that on Friday. Denise Coop says 5.0. I live in Salt Lake City. We did have a 5.7 this morning and have had 27 aftershocks. Can you imagine? Bad, very bad. John Barnholt has grabbed a YouTube subscription. Ollie P says, first boomers, Gen X, and millennials. Now we got quarantines. Very good pun. I like that. Dominic Richardson says, Bernie is out. Thoughts? Oh, did he? I did not see that. Let's see if we can maybe... I announced already that he was getting out. Bernie Sanders suspends. Let's see. Latest. Bernie Sanders suspends. Okay, yeah, I predicted 10 days ago that today would be the day. So not surprising. Joe Biden is the nominee. If you find me underreacting, we've known that this was going to happen. Honestly, the day before Super Tuesday, I believed that Bernie essentially had no path. And of course, that wasn't mathematically guaranteed, but that's it. Yeah. Let's see. I'll send a tweet about it just while we're waiting here. Whoops. Bernie Sanders. Actually, did he tweet about it is the question. Bernie Sanders. What is Bernie Sanders' Twitter account? Bernie Sanders, having trouble finding it here. There it is, Bernie Sanders. 1 hour. Okay, he hasn't tweeted about it. Bernie Sanders is out, suspending campaign. Right decision, sad, no path to nomination. It's over. What next? There we go. We're just waiting for Trump to speak. We don't know what's going on. So we're just I'm hearing from you guys, and there we go. Okay. Let's see here. What else is going on? Oh, super chats continue to come in as we wait. Manuel Riveros says, oh, I missed it. Hi, David, fellow RG living in Germany here. How socialist do you think Trump will get? Following you every day. Folks, stay home. Abrazo, papa. I don't know how socialist Trump will get. I don't know. These are unprecedented times. Jose Hidalgo says Italy and France numbers haven't been posted yet. We know, yeah, it's going to get ugly when they get posted. Clever to Swear says, how much do you bet the tiny doctor will make the curve hand gesture while having a sore throat? I like him, and it is by far the smartest guy on stage. Yeah, Anthony Fauci does always seem to have a sore throat. He may just have a raspy voice. But he probably will make that. He does that very often with that curve thing. Superman says, do you think Bernie supporters are saying they won't vote for Joe just to push the establishment, Joe, for progressive policy concessions? I don't know. I don't pretend to know what Bernie or Busters are planning to do. Aaron Washington says the glorious irony, carbon footprints are shrinking because of lockdowns and shutdowns. More people need to link coronavirus with climate change. Very true. Charlie says, David, can you clarify the different options for subscribing and supporting directly via your website, YouTube, Super Chat, other? My small brain is having trouble tracking it. What's the best way to support? Not on Patreon. Listen, the best way to support is on my website. Why? Because all we pay is 2.9% to swipe credit cards. We keep the rest. Every other method, Twitch, YouTube Super Chat, YouTube subscription, Facebook, Patreon, they all take more than 2.9%. So the best single way is on our website. Let me say thanks to Brosidon, who has subscribed with Twitch Prime and says, besides politics, do you feel the pandemic will bring out the evil in humans? I hope not. I know a lot of my friends are getting guns and whatnot. I hope that it does not bring out the worst in humans. And there's an opportunity for it to bring out the best, optimistically. Okay. Sensible Talk says, thank you for always being sensible. Jackson says, have you and Stephen Kenneth Destiny Bennell II played chess yet? We played one 30-second game. I've never played 30-second before, and he won on time. Would also like to see you play music together. Finally go back on Raj Royale. Paul Roger is a beta member on YouTube. Tyler Sauter says only Trump could be later than his COVID response. Clever to Swear says, are you sure Bernie's suspended? Are you absolutely sure? I believe so. That's what I saw. Let's take a look again. Bernie suspends. Yeah. It does seem that way. I'm seeing a number of reports about it now. Right? Or did I get that wrong? Can you imagine if he's not actually suspending? Now there's a report that he's just suspending ads. Oh, no, people misread the report. That appears to not be true. He's simply suspending ads. We got to get that shit deleted right away. Holy shit. It appears as though that has been undone. Let's clear that and pretend we never, ever tweeted that. No, listen, I think it is suspended, but I think it maybe is prematurely being reported. Yeah, okay. I guess Bernie is simply suspending all ads and campaigning, but not the campaign. What that difference is, I don't really know. But it seems the all ads, spending, and campaigning is done. Okay. New super chats coming in. Caitlin Campanella Dietrich, North Side Irish says Trump is late. Heard he's online playing Marentha. I don't even know what that is. Dominic Richardson says now people are saying he hasn't suspended. I'm confused. Keep it real, Cam jumps in. Matt Vamzo says, I'll probably check the Biden box, but who will be motivated enough to knock doors and do get out the vote? He detests us. Raven Hawk says, FYI, it's pronounced Raven Hawk. Oh, just spelled weird. Thanks for keeping us informed, David. Corey Courts says, what's worse, 4 years of Trump or 8 years of Biden? I think it's another 4 of Trump. Shaves Lee says, why doesn't Biden pick Bernie? Oh, here we go. We have gone live and we are standing by for the start. We see CNN's Caitlin Collins delivering a live report, as she often does before these start, just moments before. We are keeping an eye on the Dow, back down more than 6%, and expecting any moment now that we are going to hear from Donald Trump and the whole team. The whole team. Max Calder says, sad, I don't really understand the Bernie hate people have. He's a good guy who pushed the Democratic Party way more left and rethink how they raise money. Agreed 100%. Totally agree. Jared Camberos says Senator Bernie Sanders' movement has paved the way for the future of the progressive movement. Still a win in my eyes. Do you agree? Yeah. Listen, we learned a lot of the ideas are popular, good ideas. Bernie was not a great candidate, had a lot of toxic people around him. The Dem socialist rhetoric wasn't useful. The revolution rhetoric was not useful. That's sort of the bottom line. Let me say thanks to Jordan Stacy, who is new member number 16 at joinpacman.com. Thank you, Jordan. You can grab a membership at joinpacman.com as well. Just Flippin' Jam grabbed a membership on Twitch Prime. A smaller crowd today. I don't know if you guys are noticing in the White House press briefing room, interestingly enough. Maybe related to social distancing. I don't know. Andrew, so hold on a second. Andrew Dwyer says, thoughts on Marie Newman's victory last night. Very interesting. Progressive taking out the sort of more moderate Democrat. We talked about it last night on stream. The Dude says, compared to pandemics in previous centuries, do you find it fascinating how modern society responds? I'm weirdly more encouraged than discouraged. Here is Trump and Pence, a much smaller group. Trump claiming a big announcement. Let's listen.
Thank you very much. I would like to begin by announcing some important developments in our war against the Chinese virus.
Oh, he's doing it, Chinese
we'll be
virus.
Invoking the Defense Production Act.
He's invoking.
Just in case we need it. In other words, I think you all know what it is.
Let's see how the market reacts.
Good things if we need it, and we will have it all completed, signing it in just a little while, right after I'm finished with this conference. I'll be signing it. It's prepared to go. So we will be invoking the Defense Production Act. Last week, I signed an emergency declaration under the Stafford Act, which, as you know, we invoked previously, and which activated FEMA's National Response Coordination Center. FEMA now is fully engaged.
FEMA.
At the highest levels. Today, FEMA is activated in every region. We are at level one being the highest level, which we will work with, and we've been working with FEMA. I've done a lot of work with FEMA. They're incredible. It's always been on hurricanes or tornadoes. They're right now in Tennessee, a large group working in Tennessee have been incredible. That was a tragic event. Alabama last year, also a tornado, and then obviously the numerous hurricanes in different locations that were, in some cases, very devastating, and in every case, FEMA came through. This is a very different kind of a work for FEMA, but they will come through, as they always do. We have tremendous people, tremendous talent in FEMA. We're sending, upon request, the 2 hospital ships. They're being prepared right now. They're massive ships. They're the big white ships with the Red Cross on the sides. One is called the Mercy and the other is called the Comfort. And they are in tip-top shape. They soon will be. They're getting ready to come up to New York. I spoke with Governor Cuomo about it. He's excited about it.
Excited.
And I also, we haven't made the final determination as to where it's going to go on the West Coast. The Comfort is located now in San Diego, and it's going to be, we'll be picking the destination fairly shortly. So those 2 ships are being prepared to go, and they can be launched over the next week or so, depending on need. Earlier this week, the first clinical trial of the vaccine candidate for the virus began in Washington State, as you probably know. The genetic sequence of the virus was first published in January, but thanks to the unprecedented partnership between the FDA, NIH, and the private sector, we've reached human trials for the vaccine just 8 weeks later. That's a record by many, many months.
Likely a year away.
It used to take years to do this, and now we did it just in a very short while. That's the fastest development in history of what we're doing with regard to the vaccine. We're making very, very big progress. Today, I can announce further steps to expand testing capacity. We're working with several groups to determine if the self-swab, a much easier process than the current process that's
we need
not
self-swab.
very nice to do, I can tell you, because I did it. But we have a current process that's a little bit difficult. If you have it done, the groups are working on determining if a self-swab by an individual is as effective as the other. The other is very effective, very accurate. But we're going to see if we can do a self-swab, which is
Swab,
would be a lot more popular, I can tell you that.
super popular.
So, and that would be administered also by a health official, but it would be a lot easier to do.
A self-swab by a health official.
The fact is that the health professionals would free up a lot. Let me just say, the self-swab is what it is. It's a self-swab. You do it yourself.
Oh, you do?
The other has to be issued by a health professional, and it's something that is quite difficult. And we think it's working out for the self-swab. And if it would test positive, the people would go and they would do what they have to do. But we think that's probably working out. I've asked the FDA to cut through the red tape and reduce regulatory barriers. We are looking at some very exciting things, and I'm going to be holding a second news conference either today. We're going to talk about the FDA. Some things are happening that are quite exciting, and we're going to be doing that either later today or tomorrow, fairly early tomorrow. So we'll see what happens. But the FDA, my instructions is I've been working very, very hard on a number of developments, and we'll be discussing them with you later today or tomorrow. And this afternoon, I'll be meeting with nurses on the front lines of the battle against the virus. They're truly American heroes. They want to get it done. They're incredible people. So we're going to be meeting with nurses, and I actually look forward to that. They're very brave. They're taking a lot of risk, and they have done an incredible job, and they never complain. Today, I'm also announcing that the Department of Housing and Urban Development is providing immediate relief to renters and homeowners by suspending all foreclosures and evictions until the end of April. So we're working very closely
What about
with
payments?
Dr. Ben Carson and everybody from HUD. Every generation of Americans has been called to make shared sacrifices for the good of the nation. In World War II, young people in their teenage years volunteered to fight. They wanted to fight so badly because they love our country. Workers refused to go home and slept on factory floors to keep assembly lines running. And, you know, the numbers of ships that they built during World War II to this day nothing like that has ever been equaled. They were doing ships literally on a daily basis. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. And to this day, nobody's seen anything like that, what they were able to do during World War II.
What?
And now it's our time. We must sacrifice together because we are all in this together, and we'll come through together. It's the invisible enemy. That's always the toughest enemy, the invisible enemy. But we're going to defeat the invisible enemy. I think we're going to do it even faster than we thought. And it will be a complete victory. It'll be a total victory. So we'll have a second conference, again, having to do with the FDA. And this, I think it's going to be potentially a very exciting news conference.
Exciting.
And we will do it as quickly as we can, so whether it's today or tomorrow. And I'll, with that, ask Mike Pence to say a few words. And thank you very much.
Pence will brown nose now.
Thank you, Mr. President. The White House Coronavirus Task Force met this morning, and now that we have cases in all 50 states, we're continuing to move out on the president's call to bring the full resources of the federal government, a full partnership with every state and territory, the full power of the American economy to support businesses and families. As the president says to us and every day, we'll do whatever it takes. We're all in this together. Yesterday, the president met with the tourism industry executives and also had an engaging discussion with all the top companies in our industrial and medical supply chain. The president, as you all are aware, also announced today that by mutual consent, the northern border to Canada will be closed to non-essential travel. This does not include essential travel or the transit of goods, but it was through mutual discussion that took place this morning between the president and Prime Minister Trudeau, and the Department of Homeland Security will be effectuating that decision. The president spoke with some of the nation's top business leaders today, again, to speak about the supply chain in the country. For our part, we're going to be conducting a conference call later today with state and local health officials to renew our ongoing commitment of cooperation and collaboration. As the President said last week in signing the Stafford Act, he stood up the National Response Coordination Center, and today at the President's direction, FEMA has gone to level 1. FEMA's mission is to support disasters that are locally executed, state managed, and federally supported. And tomorrow, the President will be hosting all the nation's governors from a video conference at FEMA to ensure that they have a full connection to all of the activated regions for FEMA going forward. With regard to testing, I'm pleased to report that we're increasing the number of tests being performed by the thousands every day, thanks to the public-private partnership that President Trump forged with commercial laboratories around the country.
Trump's just great,
Our health
right?
experts tell us to remind every American, it's important to remember, people without symptoms should not get tested. We want to make sure that the supply of testing is there for those that need it most or are symptomatic or in the vulnerable population. Dr. Deborah Birx in a moment will address the progress that we're making on testing, the infection rate, our recommendations to every America, as well as some important new findings about the impact on youth that we're gaining from data that's coming in from Europe that'll be important to every American. On the subject of supplies, the President has our task force extremely focused. As the President mentioned mentioned that he's invoking the Defense Production Act today. Secretary Esper in a few moments will describe the ongoing efforts that the Department of Defense is taking to make medical resources available. Secretary Robert Wilkie will announce decisions the VA has made to expand hospital capacity within their system. Also, with regard to medical personnel, at the President's direction, HHS is issuing a regulation today that will allow all doctors and medical professionals to practice across state lines to meet the needs of hospitals that may arise in adjoining areas. In addition to that, we are again today asking every American and our medical community leaders and hospitals to partner with us in delaying elective procedures across the country in our healthcare system to ensure that medical supplies and medical capacity go where they're needed most. Seema Verma will describe guidance that CMS will be issuing on that front. And finally, I want to remind every American of the President's 15-day guidance to slow the spread. We are grateful for members of the media and the general public that are adhering to these, sharing them with neighbors and friends. All of our experts continue to believe that if every American will do their part and embrace and put into practice these principles, that we can significantly limit the reach of the coronavirus in the weeks and months ahead. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Dr. Birx, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Vice President. So, we continue to look at data every single day. There are concerning reports coming out of France and Italy about some young people getting seriously ill and very seriously ill in the ICUs. We think part of this may be that people heeded the early data coming out of China and coming out of South Korea that the elderly or those with pre-existing medical conditions were at particular risk. It may have been that the millennial generation, our largest generation, our future generation that will carry us through for the next multiple decades, there may be disproportional number of infections among that group. And so even if it's a rare occurrence, it may be seen more frequently in that group and be evident now. So we're looking at that information very carefully. We have not seen any significant mortality in the children, but we are concerned about the early reports coming out of Italy and France. So again, I'm going to call on that generation
to stay
that's
home.
Part of that group that brought us innovation, particularly throughout all of their ability to look around corners and skip through games. I always went level by level. I didn't realize that you could go from level 3 to level 7.
Oh, dear.
That's what they've taught us. They look for things that we don't see. We need them to be healthy. So again, not only calling on you to heed what's in the guidance, but to really ensure that each and every one of you are protecting each other. And so we cannot have these large gatherings that continue to occur throughout the country for people who are off work to then be socializing in large groups and spreading the virus. You have the potential then to spread it to someone who does have a condition that none of us knew about and cause them to have a disastrous outcome.
Good luck telling that to
Finally,
Oklahoma
on the
people.
testing piece and what we're learning.
Florida.
I know you know last week in bringing the private sector, I think what has been exciting to me over the last 2.5 weeks is to see this administration harness the full capacity of the private sector, understanding that a lot of our solutions that we need to confront this virus rely on the private sector. Bringing the private sector commercial labs was critical into this process. We are now beginning to see that they have spread out in a prioritized way because we asked them to prioritize the regions that were mostly affected. And so you still may have difficulty getting tests in areas that do not have significant cases. We've had them prioritize the regions where we need diagnosis and their diagnostic percent. Remember I told you South Korea was under 4%, so 96% of people were negative. The last report we've seen from the laboratories have about a 7+% positivity rate. Still 93+% or 92% are negative. But I think that's encouraging to me personally that we're prioritizing appropriately to those areas that have the greatest need. Today and yesterday, Thermo Fisher pushed out most of their laboratory testing capacity. And that will dramatically increase that platform and the ability to run additional tests in addition to Roche. So I appreciate everybody's attention to these numbers. I'm excited that we've prioritized where the need was the greatest. But again, please follow the guidance and please make sure in every report that you're putting out that you're talking about the presidential guidance to actually stop the spread of this virus. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah, very much. Mark, please.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. President. So good afternoon, everyone, and I want to provide an update on DoD's coronavirus efforts as we continue to focus on our three priorities. That's, first of all, protecting our personnel and their families. Second, safeguarding our national security mission capabilities. And third, of course, supporting the administration's whole-of-government approach. First of all, though, I do want to assure the American people that the United States military remains ready and capable of defending the country and our interests abroad. Now, with that, the Department is leaning forward in our response to COVID-19. We have issued international and domestic travel restrictions to all DoD personnel and families that should dramatically reduce potential exposure to the virus. Those have been in place for some time now. As I announced yesterday, the Department of Defense will make available up to 5 million N95 respirator masks and other personal protective equipment from our own strategic reserves to the Department of Health and Human Services for distribution. The first 1 million masks will be available immediately. We're also prepared to distribute to HHS up to 2,000 operational deployable ventilators for use as needed. Yesterday, I was at Fort Detrick, Maryland, which is probably the military's premier research institute, where I got updated on the incredible work our people are doing as part of the interagency team to work on vaccines and therapeutics. They are making great progress there. We also have announced that we've certified our 16th lab, or we'll soon certify our 16th lab to help with processing tests from across the country. Additionally, I have directed, as the President mentioned, that the hospital ships Mercy and Comfort be prepared to deploy to increase the nation's medical capacity. And we have also alerted a variety of field and expeditionary hospitals to be prepared to deploy as well as needed, based on direction from the Commander-in-Chief. Today, leadership from the Army Corps of Engineers is in New York, meeting with Governor Cuomo and his team. I spoke with Governor Cuomo yesterday, and other governors I will be speaking to more in the coming days to make sure that they know what DoD can provide through our system to address their needs. In my conversations with governors and members of Congress about DoD's resources, I've made it clear that we will continue to support the administration's comprehensive efforts and the country every step of the way while ensuring our nation's security remains the top priority. I want to conclude by thanking again all of our service members and their families who have been affected by this outbreak. They are all great heroes. We are continuing to support them throughout this. We are all in this together. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Thank you. So yesterday, the President made a very important announcement about telehealth, and this is allowing our 62 million seniors to be able to get some medical services from the safety of their home, reducing their risk and without any copays. But we're also making sure that the healthcare system is prepared and that those on the front lines have the support that they need. The reality is the stakes are high, and we need to preserve personal protective equipment for those that are on the front lines of this fight. And to that end, we have put out guidelines over the last 2 weeks to expand the types of masks that can be used in routine care and saving those N95s for the most risky situations. Conserving personal protective equipment is also essential to combat the virus. So today, CMS will announce detailed recommendations to further promote this needed conservation, specifically by limiting non-essential elective medical and surgical procedures, including dental procedures. We believe that these recommendations will help surgeons, patients, and hospitals prioritize what is essential while leaving the ultimate decision in the hands of state and local health officials and those clinicians who have direct responsibility to their patients. And we urge providers and clinicians and patients to seriously consider these recommendations. They will not only preserve equipment, but it also allows doctors and nurses to help those that are on the front lines. And it'll protect patients from unnecessary exposure to the virus. We fully appreciate that this is going to have a major impact on the healthcare system, but the shared sacrifice is essential to help those that are on the front lines. And I want to thank the medical societies such as the American College of Surgeons and the American Dental Association that took a proactive approach and already posted these recommendations. And we've also talked to the American Medical Association, and they have fully indicated their support for this recommendation. We now invite the entire healthcare community to join us in this effort. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Robert, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. My instructions from the President were very clear. I was to do everything imaginable as aggressively as possible to protect the 9.5 million veterans who are part of the Department of Veterans Affairs. Last month, we established 19 emergency operations centers across the country. We began to limit the number of visitors who entered our facilities. We began, I think, we were the first system to begin triaging across the country in our 170 hospitals, the entrance of anyone into our facility without being questioned or tested. We expanded those restrictions to those in our 135 community living centers, which have about 7,800 veterans who are in acute conditions, to make sure that they were protected. We also took the next step and made sure that we limited the dental surgeries that we were provided. We've cut back by 1/3 the number of routine appointments we have had, and we have canceled elective surgeries. These were all part of the President's directive to be as aggressive in a public health sense as we could be. And I think we have set the pace for the entire country. I will say, we've often said that we work the most noble mission in the federal government. Our veterans have been in the toughest spots in the world. They have been put in conditions that are unimaginable to most Americans, and they have responded. They have responded clearly. They have responded with passion, and also the 400,000 members of our department who are out there on the front lines. The last thing I will say is that you've heard a lot about the fourth mission that VA has. Our first three missions are healthcare, benefits, and memorial affairs. Our fourth mission is to support the federal government in times of natural disasters and pandemics. We are the buttress force in case that FEMA or HHS calls upon us to deploy medical professionals across the country to meet crises. We plan for that every day. We are gaming out emergency preparedness scenarios, and we stand ready when the President needs us to expand our mission. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Robert. Thank you. Thank you all. That's very nice. Any questions, please?
Thank you. Two questions, if I may. Your Treasury Secretary was on Capitol Hill talking about the potential for what could come, and he said that unemployment could skyrocket to 20%. Are we looking that could rival the Great Depression? Are we looking at potentially historic
No, well, I don't agree
devastation?
with that. Yeah, no, I don't agree. That's a absolute total worst case scenario. But no, we don't look at that at all.
And thank you. And my second question.
We're nowhere near it.
Okay, why do you keep calling this the Chinese virus? There are reports of dozens of incidents of bias against Chinese Americans in this country. Your own aide, Secretary Azar, says he does not use this term. He says ethnicity does not cause the virus. Why do you keep using this? A lot
Because
of
it
people
comes
say
from
it's
China.
racist.
It's not racist at all, no, not at all. It comes from China. That's why.
China?
Comes from China. I
And
want to
no
be
concerns
accurate.
about Chinese
Yeah,
Americans
please,
in
John,
this country?
please.
The aides behind you. Are you
I
comfortable
have
with this term?
I have great love for all of the people.
I would
from
love
our
to hear the
country,
people
but
behind him comment, actually.
As you know, China tried to say at one point, maybe they stopped now, that it was caused by American soldiers. That can't happen. It's not going to happen, not as long as I'm president. It comes from China. John, please.
Two questions, if I could, Mr. President. First of all, in the Defense Procurement Act, you're invoking it today. Senator Schumer
Yes.
said on the floor a short time ago that it urgently needs to be put into action to produce medical supplies, particularly ventilators. Do you have some targets that you would like to see immediately spooled up under the act?
We have tremendous numbers of ventilators, but there's never been an instance like this where no matter what you have, it's not enough. That would be the case. And we will be, it's being signed, it's essentially drawn, and I'm going to sign it in just a little while. If we need to use it, we'll be using it at full speed ahead.
Full
He
speed.
says it's urgently needed to be used. Do you have some
Well,
targets?
we're going to know whether or not urgent, but we will, yeah, we do have targets. We have targets for certain pieces of equipment. We have targets for masks. You know, the masks, the numbers of masks are incredible. We've ordered millions of them, but we need millions more. A thing like this has never been requested, and we've never had to even think in terms of these numbers, but we need millions of masks, and all of that will be ordered. We need respirators. We need ventilators is a big thing because it's a complex piece of equipment. So we have a lot of ventilators, but we're going to be ordering more.
And the second question, what size will the checks be that will be sent out to Americans?
To be determined. We're working with the Senate right now. We're working with everybody on Capitol Hill. There's been tremendous, there really has been, I mean, with some exceptions, obviously, because it's
Right.
always the way it is, but there has been, they've been getting along very well, Republicans and Democrats. It's a nice thing, very bipartisan
Would you
so
like to
forth.
see them more than $1,000?
Well, we're going to see. I don't want to get into that right now, John. We are looking at different numbers. We're looking at timing that would be different, splitting the time, splitting the payments. We're looking at a lot of different things. Hasn't been determined yet, but it will shortly be determined, and people want to go big as opposed, everybody seems to want to go big, and they want to get to the recovery. The big day is, the big thing we can do is get rid of this horrible, I call it the unseen enemy. You call it, there's 1,000 different terms for it, but whatever, it snuck up on us.
How about
And
$1,000?
it did 128 countries. I think it's in something like that, very close to that. Think of that. So it spreads violently. It's a very contagious, very, very contagious virus.
Do you consider America to be on a wartime footing in terms of fighting this virus?
I do. I actually do. I'm looking at it that way because, you know, if it got out of control, the big thing we did was a very early stoppage of people coming in who could be very,
not
very
this
heavily
again.
infected.
Nasty question.
That was a very good move, and it was very early, very, very early, when most people, including a lot of professionals, they didn't want us to do it. That really saved a lot of lives. And yeah, I look at it, I view it as in a sense, a wartime president. I mean, that's what we're fighting. I mean, it's a very tough situation. You have to do things. You have to close parts of an economy that 6 weeks ago were the best they've ever been. We had the best economy we've ever had. And then one day you have to close it down in order to defeat this enemy. And but we're doing it, and we're doing it well. And I'll tell you, the American people have been incredible. For the most part, they've been really incredible. Yeah, please, Caitlin.
For you, and then I have one for Secretary Wilkie as well, but I'll start with you. You just said there are a tremendous number of ventilators that we have, but for weeks, hospitals have been warning about a critical shortage that they say we are not prepared for. So why did it take so long to invoke the Defense Production
Well, you know,
Act?
hospitals are supposed to have ventilators too. And when we have thousands of ventilators, it sounds like a lot, but this is a very unforeseen thing. Nobody ever thought of these numbers. Nobody ever saw numbers like this.
Except the
Even
pandemic
with regard
experts
to
2 months
testing,
ago.
normally we wouldn't be doing testing, and they decided to do it. very, very hard to ramp up. Now we're getting highly sophisticated tests, and it's going very well. But nobody's ever heard of testing in the kind of quantities that you're talking about.
But we knew for
But-
weeks we needed more ventilators, so why did it take so
Well,
long?
we knew. It depends. It depends on how it goes. Worst case, absolutely. Best case, not at all. So we're going to have to see where it goes. But we are ordering thousands and thousands of ventilators, and they're complex. You know, these are complex machines, and but we're ordering them. Does anybody have a, Mike? Maybe you do. How many do we have?
Yeah, you said
And
you
we're
could
ordering.
access the
Please,
number.
yeah, please. Do you know the number?
We have a specific number of ventilators in the stockpile. It's in excess of 10,000, and you just heard the announcement from the Department of Defense. They'll be adding several more thousand to that. But the President, even this morning and yesterday afternoon, speaking with the largest companies in the supply chain in this country, we're hearing a tremendous spirit among industry leaders who are ready to
The
step
question is
in
about
and
ventilators.
add to that volume. The stockpiles don't count all of the ventilators that exist today in the marketplace and in healthcare facilities around the country. But the President's given us a directive to make sure that our stockpile, but just as importantly, working with industry leaders, that we're securing the increase in ventilators, the increase in masks, gloves, eye protective care, garments that are all necessary to lean forward. And we're confident we'll be able to accomplish that with the incredible cooperation of the supply chain that
Right.
exists in America today.
But we don't have an exact number for nationwide, how many ventilators we have?
We can give you that exact number. We'll give it to
Okay,
you.
that's what-
But we're ordering a lot more.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead in the back.
One question for the VA secretary? One question for
Yeah,
the
one
first
second.
secretary?
1 second, Caitlin. We'll do it in a second.
Okay.
You'll be able
That's
to.
important.
Two questions, Mr. President. Thank you.
Yes.
The first one on the Canadian border. What was the tipping point? Friday we talked about it, and Monday you said no, we're not considering closing
No, I
the
said not
border.
yet. I spoke with the Prime Minister, Trudeau. Very good relationship, obviously, between us and our two countries. And no tipping point. It's just that we want to isolate from the standpoint we don't want people coming into contact, because that's the way we're going to win this war. That is so important. And we both thought it was time. Now, it's not affecting trade. It's non-essential. It's non-essential crossings. It won't affect trade at all. And it was just something we thought would be good for both countries. Yes, please.
Second question, Mr. President. How can you be sure that trade
Go ahead,
is not
please.
going to be a vector of the virus? How can you be sure that trade and everything that's being shipped from one side
Well,
to
they're
the
doing
other-
it in a very careful manner. You can only be vigilant and very professional.
Right.
But we're not. It's not pertaining at this moment to trade between the two countries. Yeah, please.
We are hearing that the $1 trillion economic stimulus package could look something like $50 billion for the airlines, $150 billion in loan guarantees for critical sectors of the economy, a $250 billion payment on April 6th directly to individuals, another $250 billion payment on May 18th, again, directly to individuals, and as well, $300 billion for small business loan guarantees. Is that, in the general sense,
It
what
could
you're
be.
looking at?
It could be, and we're also playing with a lot of numbers, a lot of very big numbers, and a lot of very small numbers. Frankly, we want to
Small
take care. We have to help everybody. It was nobody's fault. This happened. I mean, some people could say it was somebody's fault, actually, but it was nobody's fault, and certainly none of these companies that all of a sudden had no passengers in planes and had no passengers on cruise ships and all of the things that have happened. But I will say that they can't be blamed for this, and we want to keep those companies vibrant, because there's going to be a comeback very, very quickly as soon as this is solved, and it will be solved. We will win, and there will be a comeback, and it'll take place very quickly.
$250 billion, there's give or take 330 million Americans or so. If you just do the math on that, that's about $750 a person. A family of four, that would be about $3,000 on average. Again, rough math. Which is that where this is
Well,
headed?
no, I don't want to say that,
$1,000?
because it's a moving. These are all every number that you mentioned. Yes, we've talked about those numbers. We're also moving those numbers in both directions. So we'll let you know. It's moving along fast. Again, there's a great bipartisan effort going on that I haven't really seen before to this extent.
On the self-swab that you mentioned at
Yeah.
the beginning of this, has the FDA approved that test? Is
No,
that
they're
what you're
looking at it.
waiting for?
It's down the line, and they're looking at it very seriously. And I think it would be a great thing, because the others, to use a nice word, it's very inconvenient.
And a
It's
second
very
question
tough.
For you, sir. You tweeted this morning about your approval rating amongst Republicans. You have said that you give yourself a 10 in terms of handling this crisis. How do you reassure Americans at home who don't trust you to handle a crisis of this magnitude?
Well, I think we're doing a really good job.
Yeah.
We started off with a termination of the border, the people coming in from China, where this all
ended the
started.
border.
That meant I took it very seriously. And when I use the word calm doesn't mean that I'm not taking it seriously. Calm means, and we should be calm. We should be extremely calm. But yeah, 95% within the Republican Party and over 50%. And I also have, we have very great approval numbers. I mean, people like the job that we're doing. And when you compare this to other epidemics, or if you want to use a different term, you can, but within this country, and you look at what's happened over the years, this is being handled very, very professionally. We have the greatest professionals in the world. We're doing a good job. Nobody's ever been swamped like this. And nothing's been so contagious. The level of contagion has been incredible, actually. Nobody's seen anything quite like this. Yeah, Peter, go ahead.
If I can ask about the tests, sir, for a second. If federal officials have shipped millions of tests, as you and your colleagues have said, why, as the federal government says, have only 59,000 tests been processed to this point? We just heard from the Atlanta public health director saying that they have fewer than 50 test kits for more than 900,000 citizens.
Yeah,
Where are
well,
the tests?
I'll let Mike answer that. Deborah.
So that's a very critical question, and thank you for asking it. So the test kits that we put out last week through the approval, the rapid movement of that meeting that President Trump called less than 2 weeks ago, that has resulted in bringing our private sector to the table, because the test and the platform that was out there could only run between 4 and 12 tests per platform per day.
Right.
We've now moved into platforms that can run basically tens of thousands of tests per day. So yeah, the reason I'm grateful for your question, because it allows me to point out that, of course, then there was backlog. There were individuals who had been tested, who hadn't had their specimen run because of the slow throughput. It's now in a high-speed platform. So we will see the number of people diagnosed dramatically increase over the next 4 to 5 days.
Yes.
I know some of you will use that to raise an alarm that we are worse than Italy because of our slope of our curve. To every American out there, it will be 5 to 6 days worth of tests being run in 24 to 48 hours. So our curves will not be stable until sometime next week.
Yikes.
The reason I talked about Thermo Fisher yesterday is because their platform is in 2,000 laboratories. They're the ones that are putting out the 1 million tests this week that will solve the issue that Atlanta and others have brought up. I wanted to be clear. We prioritize the areas. We do county by county analyses. Based on those analyses, on what counties had more than 50 cases, we prioritize the test kits we put out, the 400,000. And that's why we're seeing a 7% plus positivity rate. We'll be able to expand that platform and reprioritize based on the accessibility of the other kits.
Oh, boy.
Perhaps I can follow up. How are non-symptomatic professional athletes getting tests while others are waiting in line
Yes.
and can't get them? Do the
Yes.
well-connected go to the front of the line?
Well, you'd have to ask them that question. I mean, I've read. No, I wouldn't say so, but
Nasty
perhaps
question.
that's been the story of life. That does happen on occasion, and
On
I've
occasion.
noticed where some people have been tested fairly quickly. Look,
Sometimes
we
rich people get
inherited
better
a
stuff.
very-
Encourage them to defer
Excuse
their
me.
tests to others.
Excuse me.
Nasty.
We inherited a very obsolete system. This was a system that was out of date, obsolete, or it was a system that was never meant to take care of the kind of quantity, the number of people that we're talking about, millions and millions of people. If you go back in years past, like even recently with the flu, nobody had tests before. They didn't test the entire nation to see whether or not they had flu. They got the flu, they got better. Hopefully they got better, that was it. Now all of a sudden they do this very complex testing. What we've done is we've broken it down, we've broken up the system, but it was obsolete, and or you could say it was also a system that just wasn't meant to handle the kind of volume that you're talking about. We've rebuilt it into a system that for the future will be a very good system if you want to go this route. But this was never done before, and I would imagine it will be done in the future, but we built it into a very good system by using private companies, the great private companies. And I have to say, Roche has been doing a very good job.
By the way,
They're
guys,
doing a lot
remember the question was, how are athletes and rich people getting tested so quickly without symptoms? He's talking about Roche.
like this or even near this. John?
Mr. President, a couple of things. A major trade coalition is calling on you to suspend tariffs with other countries as part of the response to the coronavirus.
Who heads that group? Those countries do, probably.
No, it's an
Go
American,
check.
it's an American free trade.
I know, I'm sure of free trade. Look, China's paying us billions and billions of dollars in tariffs, and
No.
there's no reason
American
to do
companies
that. They
do it.
haven't even spoken to me about that. China hasn't asked me to do that, but we're getting billions of dollars a year from tariffs from China.
you get it from Americans.
And I can't imagine Americans asking for that, but it could
The
be that
Americans are
China
the ones
will ask
paying.
for a suspension or something. Let's see what happens. China's having a very rough time. They have their worst year in 76 years, as I understand it. They're having a very, very tough time. And then on top of it, this happened with the virus. But no, we're taking in billions of dollars a year in tariffs, and this was caused by something totally unrelated to tariffs.
And on asylum seekers and people who cross the southern border illegally, are you planning to invoke 42 USC 265, which would allow you to prohibit entry of certain people
The
across
answer is
the border?
yes.
And when will that happen?
Very soon, probably today. Yes.
A question for you and then a question for Dr. Birx.
Yeah.
On the border, firstly, are there plans to fully shut the Mexican border? And what do you define as essential travel when it comes to the U.S.-Canadian border?
Well, I think essential is medical. We have military working
Elements of
together.
medical.
We have industry working together. And again, it's not affecting trade. So things like that. But just leisurely, let's go to a restaurant and have dinner, which a lot of people do. They come both ways. They go in both directions. That kind of thing we have ended on a temporary basis. Yeah, please, go ahead. Not close it. No, we're not going to close it. But we are invoking
That thing the
certain
other guy
provision that will allow us great latitude as to
Yeah.
what we do.
The 42
Please.
something something.
If I could.
Yeah,
The
go
Wall
ahead.
Street
You know what? Go
Journal
ahead.
is-
Sure.
The Wall Street Journal.
Doctor?
So I just wanted to clarify something because just a week ago, you all were standing here telling us that unless you had sustained contact with somebody who was symptomatic for COVID-19, you really didn't need to worry. You told the president, the vice president, that if they shook hands with somebody who had this, if they took a photograph with somebody who had this, they didn't really need to worry. And yet, several days later, we're in a situation where people are being told, don't leave your houses. There are curfews saying you cannot walk alone at night after a certain time. Can you walk us through what seems like a very dramatic swing, a very
Yes.
dramatic disconnect
Nasty
from what
question.
we were doing before to
Nasty
what we're doing
woman.
now?
So two things. We look at data all the time, and I know you're looking at the China and South Korea data. And when you look at China and South Korea data and you look what China and South Korea did, you can see that their curves are not only blunted outside of Wuhan, so the Chinese areas outside of Wuhan, blunted curve, and South Korea, blunted curve. If you look at their curve today, they're already on the far end of their epidemic curve. Of course, none of those countries are fully back to work, and so that's what we worry about too. Secondly, there was a series of scientific articles published, and I know you've seen them too, about surface contamination. I think none of us really understood the level of surface piece. So we're still working out how much is it by human-human transmission and how much is it by surface. And this is why those fundamental guidelines were put out that says don't expose yourself to surfaces outside the home. Basically what those guidelines are is don't expose yourself to excess number of persons who could be asymptomatic and infected, and then the person-to-person contact, and don't expose yourself to surfaces that could have had the virus on it, for which on hard surfaces, I know we had the cardboard issue about shipping, hard surfaces, not shown in fabric as much or in cardboard, but hard surface transmission. These are issues that we haven't had to deal with before with the level of respiratory infections, and that's why we have this concern, and that's why the president put out the guidelines. And so it's to cover both of those pieces. That's all new science, all new models. I think many of you have the Imperial study available and looked at the impact of those. That's the first time those have been modeled as a comprehensive approach to mitigating an epidemic.
And Dr. Burks. Yesterday.
What about money?
Go ahead.
Mr. President, the Wall Street Journal is reporting that the administration has looked at an executive order that would expand the use of investigational drugs against the virus, but that FDA scientists are warning that this could put patients at risk.
I haven't
Is this
seen
something
the
you're
article.
looking at?
No, I haven't seen the article. We are making a lot of progress therapeutically, I will say that, but I have not seen that article, no. Go ahead.
Mr. President, we've shut down non-essential travel to Canada. Are you considering shutting down all travel to brunt the spread of the virus? And we've heard from industries like the airlines who are seeking relief. What other industries or how exactly is your administration going to determine which industries and businesses get
Well, there are
help?
certain industries that people know. I mean, the airlines would be number one if you look at what's going on. They go from having the best year they've ever had to having no passengers because of what we've had to do in order to win this war. It's a war. And so, basically, what many of the industries are. What we want to do is we want to make sure they all stay together so that after the war is won, we can immediately go right back up to where we were and even beyond. I think we're going to go beyond where we were. And a lot of people are saying that, by the way. We're poised to do that. But we have to win the war first. Yeah, please, go ahead.
Thank you. To follow up on that, Treasury proposed $150 billion today for those industries, but their proposal doesn't detail which industries would get that money and how much. So aside from the airlines, which you just mentioned, what about the cruise industry, the hotels? Yeah. How much of that money do you see them each
We're
getting?
talking about all of it. Haven't detailed it yet. We have detailed it to senators and
all of the above.
To members of the House. We have been talking about it, and we're coming up with numbers. Haven't gotten there yet, but certainly hotel industry, the cruise ship industry, the airlines, those are all prime candidates, absolutely.
On the northern border, sir, when you say
Which
temporary,
border?
the northern border,
Yeah.
when you say temporary, which is what you said in your tweet, does that mean 30 days?
I would say 30 days, and hopefully at the end of 30 days, we'll be in great shape. Jeff, please.
Mr. President, I was struck by what Dr. Burke said about millennials and others perhaps not taking some of these warnings as seriously as you would like. Some of those people also seem to be your supporters and conservatives who may be quoting some of what you said at the beginning of this, comparing it to the flu. What is your message to them to really follow what you've been saying so far? And are you concerned that they're still listening maybe to some of your earlier comments rather than your more recent ones?
Well, I think my earlier comments are to be calm. I mean, I do want people to be calm because we're going to win
And it's
this.
a hoax.
We're
It's
going to win
nothing.
it. It's
It'll
just a
go
question
away.
of time. And I wanted to go quickly. So based on the fact that I wanted to go quickly, I hope they just listen to what we've been saying over the last period of time. We don't want them gathering, and I see they do gather, including on beaches and including in restaurants, young people. They don't realize that they're feeling invincible. I don't know if you felt invincible when you were very young, but they were feeling totally invincible or are feeling that way, but they don't realize that they can be carrying lots of bad things home to grandmother and grandfather and even their parents. So we want them to heed the advice. We mean the advice, and I think it's getting through. I do believe it's getting through, Jim.
If they're watching,
Please.
what do you say to them if they're watching? Sorry.
If they're what?
I think there are a lot of them watching, a lot of these people at home, these young people.
Well, I think I
What-
just
what-
said it.
I was going to say, what do you
Heed
say to
the
them?
advice. Heed the advice. I just said, yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Peter.
How long do you think
Thank
this
you,
is going to
Mr.
wrap?
President.
Mr. President, how long do you think this is going to
We'll
last?
get you next, okay? Say it.
Thank you, Mr. President. In talking about China, you've been very clear about who you think is to blame or where the origin to blame for this virus is.
Not
Senator-
think. No. I don't think. I know where it
Right.
came from. I don't know if you'd say China's to blame. Certainly, we didn't get an early run on it. It would have been helpful if we knew about it earlier.
You ignored it.
But it comes from China, and it's not a question about that. Nobody's questioning that.
Senator Cotton is saying that they should be punished, in so many words, for inflicting this on the American people. Do you feel that way about it?
Well, I have a lot of respect for Tom Cotton, and I know exactly what he's been saying. And there are those people that say that. So we'll see what happens. Thank you. Go ahead. It's your turn. Go ahead. Please. He's been waiting a long time. Please. You've had your hand up so nicely for a long time. It's your time.
Thank you, sir. We've seen the Chinese government kick out reporters from the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, the Washington Post. What is your message to the Chinese when it comes to transparency at a moment where you still have reporters asking you questions here at the White House?
Yeah, I'm not happy to see it. I don't, I have my own disputes with all three of those media groups. I think you know that very well. But I don't like seeing that at all. I'm not happy about that at all. Yes, please.
You didn't correct the language, so I wonder if you agree with it. Do you believe that China is inflicting this upon our country?
No, I don't believe they're inflicting. I think they could have given us a lot earlier notice. Absolutely. Please. Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. President, your credibility ratings are very low. There was a recent NPR poll.
Who are you asking that
Nasty.
question?
I'm asking.
Because I see that they're very high. You know, if you look, I'm 95% of the Republican Party.
Credibility,
We
sir.
just had a poll that was done by a very reputable group where I'm beating Sleepy Joe Biden by a lot.
Sleepy.
In Florida, in the state of Florida, and in other states. You know, so I don't really know who you're talking about. All right, Jennifer, go ahead, please.
Skipping.
Would you give us an update on your conversation with the airline executives?
Yeah.
Did you explain to them what's coming? What was their
I
reaction?
did, and they explained to me where they're coming from. I mean, they went from, as I said, full planes, packed, the best year they've ever had by far,
Water refill
to
time.
boom, one day empty because of what we have to do to get rid of, to win this war. Or we would have